This is Entertainment Las Vegas Style with your host, Tony Sacca.
There's no other place like Las Vegas to see. No other place like Las Vegas to be. Where beautiful mountains surround the town. Your dreams and fantasies are all around. The lights are so bright, they stand so high in the sky. To let you know there's gonna be a show in Las Vegas, what a town.
Tonight from the MGM Grand, a behind-the-scenes look at the musical and magical production of FX Alive, starring Rick Springfield. This is Entertainment Las Vegas Style. From the MGM Grand, the city of entertainment, singer, songwriter, actor, and the star of FX Alive, Rick Springfield.
Yeah, I'm addicted to the rhythm of the beat.
I'm talking to Bruce Springsteen right here. No.
Fine.
Or, no, it's Richard Lewis Springthorpe.
Yeah, it's my family name.
And
Springfield was changed on me by when I was about 15, actually, the first band I was in.
was your nickname, or somebody nicknamed you ZZ or something? Yeah.
ZZ, that was my nickname, what I called myself when I was a little kid.
Right. Yeah, just a little trivia there.
Yeah.
You know, I always like to take people back when I'm talking to them. You're 51 years old now. Am I allowed to say that? You're 51 years old. You look great for 51 years old. How many guys want to look like him at 51 years old? You look great. Born in 49 in Australia. 13 years old is when you got your first guitar. You were a piano player.
Yeah, my mom tried to make me play piano, but I kind of rebelled and picked up the guitar instead.
We all need the human touch. We all need the human touch.
I've always wanted to write, not just for the moment, but songs that last, because that was the kind of music I grew up on. And, it's great to have a couple of songs that have done that. I hope to keep writing.
Who is one of your biggest influences?
Rodgers and Hammerstein was the first stuff I started to hear, the show tunes, because my dad used to sing those. And then, of course, the Beatles, I guess I grew up understanding how important the songwriter was from Rodgers and Hammerstein, all the show tunes. The writer was the star, Oklahoma and My Fair Lady. I mean, they didn't write that, but that's another one I love. South Pacific, Carousel, all those shows. The writers were the stars, songwriters were the stars, and I grew up knowing that. And I guess that's why I focused on songwriting. I went into acting because I couldn't get a record deal in the 70s, but music was always my focus. But I kind of fell in love with acting, and it became, a pretty decent-sized part of my life.
Do you take the same approach as a performer and a thinker as when you are an actor or when you're singing on stage? Same thought pattern going through your mind?
Yeah, it's the same. I think it's the same engine, This show, FX Alive, I kind of approach more as an actor than necessarily a singer, but yeah, it all pretty much is in the mix,
Look at your life, boy. Look at that road ahead. Starting from this moment, you must find your way. Look at your life, boy. Every path leads to adventure. Your life is what you make it every day.
Tell me about some of the highlights for you in the show and what got you interested in the show and how did it happen?
Actually, the Time Machine kind of sold me on it. I'm a science fiction fan, and Time Machine was always one of my favorite things as a kid. And I loved the effects. I thought the effects were amazing. I just really, initially, I didn't know what I could do in the show. It seemed like such an odd vehicle for me. But then we started talking about, making it, building it around what I do. And, and once we started to do that, it really started to make a lot of sense to me.
I love the way you're adding this. I mean, it really gave a contemporary feel to the show.
Yeah, I think that's what they wanted to do.
Even down to your outfits. You like the outfits?
Yeah, I think we focused on that, on giving a little more energy and a little more contemporary feel. And I think it's actually worked better than I thought it would work. Having been into the show for a few months now, I was waiting to kind of get to the point where I go, oh man, I don't really like this section. I'm waiting to get through it, but it hasn't happened. I mean, every section is exciting to me still, and I look forward to each section doing something new. And it's really to do with the artist too, about approaching it with a new mind every night, and making something different.
What does the message of this show mean to you?
Listen to your heart actually is a message. We're looking for something, and I'd actually done an interview a little while before and said specifically that they said, do you have a philosophy? And I said, probably my one philosophy is I listen to the spirit voice inside me, you know, when I know what's true and I know what's right and I know what's wrong. And if I follow that voice, that I'm going the right path. And I know, although it can be fun not to follow that voice, it's generally the wrong way to go. And I wrote a song, Rhythm of the Beat, that kind of talked about things like that, and then we just gradually picked up that theme for the whole show.
Stand up, everybody, this is where we start. Listen to the rhythm of the music in your heart.
So, Rick, what advice can we give someone like you? You've had a lot of adversities in your life, and you'd had to hang in there, and you kept climbing and climbing and climbing. What advice can you give to our audience?
I don't know. The thing I tell my kids is if you find your passion, follow it, and never give up, never give up, never give up.
I want to thank you for talking with me.
So. Great.
You know, I wish that I had just this girl. I wish that I had just
More from FX Alive after this.
Tell me, where can I find a woman like that? There's no other place like Las Vegas to see.
You're watching Entertainment Las Vegas style.
Step right up, one and all, to the biggest show of all, the intergalactic circle of wonder. The intergalactic circle of wonder.
We're behind the scenes here with Jackie Murphy.
That's right.
Executive Director for Costumes and Uniforms here at the MGM Grand Effects Show. And I guess uniforms also mean the uniforms that the workers wear, I'm assuming.
That's right. That's right. Because we're performance-oriented, all of our cast members, ordinarily they would be called employees, their uniforms are called costumes. It's the total entertainment experience.
Let's talk about Rick Springfield's costume.
The beauty of this show is effects was written so we could accommodate the personality of virtually any star, and all of them that have appeared in effects have had vastly different personalities from one another. And when Rick was signed to do effects, obviously his rock and roll background gave us a whole different perspective to think about. So we looked into his past, and we also looked into all of the different characters in the show, and we fit Rick's rock and roll personality into the show by making the costumes slightly more rock and roll oriented. And we worked closely with Rick. He had an awful lot of input and valuable input. We created multiple sketches and workshopped it until we got to a point where we said that's the look for the show. This is Rick's opening costume, and he magically appears from a wall of fog, flying on a flying saucer, and with his guitar, and it's a rock and roll feel. And we have an embroidered dragon on the back, again in our collaboration with Rick on what he would feel comfortable in wearing. We developed this design, and we actually took the embroidery of the dragon from one of his own personal jackets. We don't spare any expense on the quality of goods that we use. Most often, when we design costumes, we don't back into fabrics that are already available. Oftentimes we create them, such as, the Merlin cape. We had to create this fabric. We started out with white silk, and we tie-dyed it, and we embroidered it. So, of course, the cost that goes along with that is certainly more than were you to buy at retail. But, I feel that our return on that is that the audience is exposed to something that, is certainly much more spectacular than were you to see a show that everything was off the shelf.
How about color? How important is color for the performer, and it has to also work with the show itself?
The color's very important. It's a very colorful show. Our guest that comes to Las Vegas has a pre-expectation of it being over the top, bright, big, brassy Las Vegas. So we try to saturate as much color on the stage. And my personal feeling is that, the audience member becomes bored after a while unless you keep fascinating them with visuals. So we give as much color, sequins, rhinestones, many different things you can do to dazzle them, make it kaleidoscopic. The show is constantly evolving and constantly improving. what you see today, in 6 months might be slightly different. We're always changing things and hopefully enhancing them and improving them. So if you come back and see the show, it might look slightly different, and probably because it is. We work 7 days a week in this shop. We have a team of about 40 people total that work with the costumes for the show. 3/4 of the staff works during the evening, preparing the show, dressing the show, maintaining the costumes, and we have approximately 8 people, highly skilled technical people that work on the costumes during the day. When a costume needs alterations or we need to build a new costume, that happens right here in this room. We have pattern makers, embroiderers, cutters, fitters. It's virtually the same as the old studio system in Hollywood years ago, where all the studios had their own big costume shops. We can do anything in this shop. We don't have to outsource anything other than shoes. We don't make our own shoes here.
I got some cuffs I need done. You think they can handle that?
Sure, they can do that with their eyes closed.
Stay tuned for more FX Alive.
There's no other place like Las Vegas to see.
You're watching Entertainment Las Vegas Style.
I need your help now, Arthur. Go to the sword.
I'm with Max Zerflu, production stage manager,
That's right.
and we're standing in the cockpit here.
Well, you can call it the cockpit. We call it the automation pit. This is the automation department of our show, and we like to call it the heartbeat of our show, because almost everything we have in the theater, from set pieces to fly rail pieces, they're all automated on motors. We have over 180 motors in the show. In the old days, you'd have people pushing things around, but now we have computerized, motorized set pieces. Everything moves exact same speed, exact same time in every show. And this is where it all happens. We've got 5 computers, 5 operators down here, making everything move throughout the show. All the computers have everything in what's called PLC, in a program, but all of these red lights and all these individual controls are local controls for a certain set piece. For example, this is for the Morlock trees. If you wanted to move something outside of the program, just on its own, then you would come over here and move it. And the reason these are so close to the operators is because if something goes wrong in the show and the computer program messes up or fails, then they have to come over here quickly and take each piece and individually move it.
What did it take you to get where you are? And tell me about your background.
Well, me personally, as soon as I got out of high school, I went on the road with an ice show, and that was about 16 years ago. I just worked on different departments on the road. I didn't actually go to school to study theater. I just did everything on different shows over the past 12, 13 years. I did electrics, lighting, I did carpentry, I did props, I worked with the cast, and when I came to Vegas 8 years ago, I joined the MGM Grand. The day after it opened, I'm considered an original cast member. And just when I first started in the hotel, I was a rigger up on the fly rail. I was a rigger when we were building the show, and just kind of moved up to assistant stage manager, and now it's where I am now.
So you actually oversee how many departments?
Well, I'm the production stage manager, so I'm actually in charge of the whole show. I'm responsible for the run of the show and making sure that night in, night out, we have a successful production. There's also a technical director who oversees all of the technical crew. We have other stage managers who are responsible for the performing cast, and I'm the guy in charge of the whole show, but we have a lot of very successful and competent and intelligent people that are over different areas. 7 o'clock in the morning, we have a full-time 12-member day crew that comes in, and their only responsibility is to do maintenance on the show. So it's a full crew for that. 4:15, our show crew comes in. They do maintenance, cleaning, and preparation, and we have the show ready to go by 6:30. The dancers come in at 6:30. They do a warm-up. We have a mandatory warm-up here in the theater because the show's very tough and hard on the dancers. The stage is a very hard stage and difficult set pieces to dance on, so we have a mandated warm-up at 6:30.
Tell me about some of the bigger props or pyrotechnics in this show.
Well, we use over 20 pounds of pyrotechnics per show, between We have, you know, all kinds of power. We have gerbs and fountains and sunbursts, and we also use natural gas, natural flame on stage. We have 2 fog walls. That's kind of the biggest, that's the biggest success as far as new technology goes. When we built the show 6 years ago, the fog walls, they'd never existed before.
What is a fog wall?
Our fog wall is LN2, which is liquid nitrogen and steam. It's a mixture of those things. And our fog walls cover the entire stage with a wall of fog, which is something that had never been accomplished prior to our show being built. And we're pretty proud of that.
Release yourself to the power of FX.
We're standing in front of the dragon.
Yep, this is one of our dragons. Her name is Morgana.
Morgana.
Yep, she's the smaller of the 2. She only costs about $1 million to build, so, you know, not much. Our other dragon costs about the same, so for 2 dragons, we got the bargain deal of about $2 million. And, you know, a lot of animatronics. It's all latex. It took us, the hard thing was programming them to do what we want them to do. I think that took over 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks, just to program the dragons. And it's only, you know, in the show, it's only about a 4-minute segment, so it just gives you an idea of how long it took us to get this show up and running.
Have you ever had any problems with the dragons during the show?
Oh, yeah. Yes, we have.
Did they ever miss a performance?
Yeah, she's pretty good. Our big one, he's a little, he gets an attitude sometimes and doesn't want to come out for his show. We've had a situation before where we couldn't put the big dragon away. And when we couldn't put the big dragon away, we couldn't go on with the show. We actually had, it was one of the rare times we had to actually say we cannot finish the show because we just couldn't get him to move. We were up there, 12 guys were trying to push him out of the way so we could close up the deck, but it just wasn't happening. We have set pieces up on stage that are 25,000 pounds. This Merlin set itself is about 60,000 pounds, and it goes on an elevator, and the elevator goes up, and you know, just all those movements. There's so many movements in this show. There's a production team of 70 people that run the show, including lighting and the stage crew and wardrobe, and all 70 people have to do their cues exactly right. This guy has to put a pin in here before this thing comes in next. It's like a big jigsaw puzzle. As soon as one piece doesn't go in at the right time, then it all falls apart. And so our biggest challenge is just making sure that day in, day out, everybody here stays on their toes, does their job, and does it with the right timing and at the right speed every day so that we can have smooth shows.
Now, Arthur! Use the sword.
There's more to come from FX Alive.
There's no other place like Las Vegas to see.
You're watching Entertainment Las Vegas Style.
Tina Welsh, principal actor and singer in the show. And you play 2 parts.
I do. I play 2 characters.
One is
Bess Houdini,
Bess Houdini.
Harry Houdini's widow, in one section, which is the Harry Houdini section. And I play Morgana, the evil Morgana, in the Merlin scene.
So I know you're getting ready for Bess Houdini.
I'm going to show you what I do to get into Bess Houdini. This is this lovely skull cap that I get to put on, but the only way I can do it is to do this. And the only thing I'm not going to show you how to do is I put a mic on before I put the wig on. So, right now I do have Bess Houdini's makeup on. And of course, I have to pin it down. I have worked 3 versions of EFX out of the 4. I worked, I was the original, part of the original cast with Michael Crawford. And that was, of course, taking EFX from paper, working it in a workshop, and then coming to this theater and, you know, making it come alive. It was an incredible challenge. I stayed here for 2 years, and then I left for about 2.5 years. I did not work with David Cassidy, and then came back and worked with Tommy Toon. Yeah.
That's awesome.
He was wonderful. And worked 2 years with him. And You know, every version has been kind of a signature for the star. And so my script changes, my costumes changed. And I like that. I like creating new things. And the characters, Bess Houdini and Morgana, have just evolved. Now with this new version with Rick Springfield, EFX is alive, really. It's a lot of fun. If you think that a lot is going on from your seat out in the audience, you can only imagine what's going on backstage. Because people don't stop. From the crew to the dancers to all of us, we are just running, especially Rick. He's just running from one thing to another. I have one song, and it is a duet with Rick Springfield, which he wrote with Bill Ray, called Forever. And I start the scene with the song. And then as I lead everybody into the scene of the seance, Rick appears as Harry Houdini, and he starts singing. And then it becomes a duet, and it's beautiful. It really is.
Morgana, the second character.
Yes, actually you see her first in the show, and she is in the Merlin scene. She's a great character. She's kind of a combination of Joan Crawford and Betty Davis and Norma Desmond and Margaret Hamilton's Wicked Witch of the West, you know, all of those fun characters, fun divas. Darling, please come to FX Alive. You will just love it. Morgana, request your presence.
So wherever you go, you will always know that there's no other place like Las Vegas to go. It's a fun town, it's a sun town, it's the kind of town where people win all around. It's Las Vegas.